Why is Donald Trump suing the New York Times for a mind-blowing $15 billion? And what does Jeffrey Epstein have to do with it? This isn't just another Trump headline. We are talking about a decades-long feud, a $15 billion lawsuit, and explosive claims about one of America's biggest newspapers. Trump says the Times has been lying about him, his family, and his ties to Epstein for years. But is this just politics as usual or something much deeper? Hello viewers, I'm Kavya Khandelwal and you're watching The Edge. Stay tuned because this story has twists you don't want to miss. Let's start with part 1. Let's rewind. On Monday, Trump announced on Truth Social, his social media platform, that he is taking the New York Times to court, not just for a small statement but for a record-breaking $15 billion. Why? According to Trump, the Times has been on a decades-long mission to smear him. He claims the paper twisted stories about his business, his political campaigns, and even his personal connections. And the hottest button issue, Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier, who died in the jail in 2019 while awaiting trial for sex trafficking and haunting the reputations of several powerful men. Photos, letters, and documents have been floating around linking him to big names: Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and yes, Donald Trump. Recently, a House committee released a set of documents from Epstein's estate that included a strange mix: birthday notes, crude sketches, and even letters that seemed to be signed by Trump. One entry had his name scribbled inside a drawing of a curvy, naked woman. Trump says it's fake, insisting he cut ties with Epstein long before his crimes became public. The New York Times, however, has never stopped digging into these alleged ties, and that, Trump says, is defamation. Now comes part 2. Here's the tricky part. Defamation lawsuits in the US aren't easy, especially when the plaintiff is a public figure. The law requires Trump to prove not just that the reporting was wrong, but also that it was done with actual malice. Basically, that the Times knowingly lied or showed reckless disregard for the truth. And that $15 billion, that's not just a lawsuit, that's a declaration of war. For perspective, that's more than the market value of some entire media companies. But Trump insists this is personal. He's farming the lawsuit not just as about him, but about protecting his movement MAGA, that is America First, his family name, and even the nation itself. Now comes part 3. Trump's relationship with the New York Times has always been rocky. Remember? The New York Times is one of the most influential newspapers in the world. They have covered him since the 1970s, his real estate empire, bankruptcies, reality TV days, and finally, his presidency. In his lawsuit announcement, Trump accused the paper of being a mouthpiece for the radical left and even called its endorsement of Kamala Harris a form of illegal campaign contribution. But Trump claims he had already won record settlements in past defamation cases against outlets like ABC and CBS. He paints this as another round in his large fight against what he calls the fake news media. Meanwhile, the Epstein documents keep fueling speculation. While some of the notes and photos are harmless, including birthday wishes and goofy doodles, others contain explicit content with sexual references. And since Epstein's web of connections spans politics, business, and royalty, any link to Trump makes headlines. Trump denies every bit of it. He says he never wrote the suggestive note, never drew the woman, and broke off connection with Epstein years ago. To him, the fact that his name appears in Epstein's circle is exactly why the media keeps dragging it out. Here comes the part 4. Here's where it gets dramatic. Trump isn't filing this lawsuit in New York, the home turf of the New York Times. Instead, he is bringing it to Florida, where he believes the courts will be friendlier. That decision is strategic. Florida has been Trump's fortress since leaving the White House, his residence, his voter base, and, in his words, the great state that will defend him against what he calls illegal abuse. And this isn't just about money. Trump is painting this lawsuit as a battle for truth, saying the Times has freely lied and smeared him for far too long. His language makes it sound less like a legal case and more like a war cry. But here's the twist. If this lawsuit goes forward, it could mean Trump himself gets pulled into questioning about his past, about Epstein, and about documents he insists are fake. That could open doors to even more revelations, the very thing he's trying to avoid. Now, let's get into part 5. So here's where we stand. Trump is suing the New York Times for $15 billion, claiming decades of lies about his life, his presidency, and his ties with Jeffrey Epstein. The Times hasn't fully responded yet, but this could set the stage for one of the biggest media lawsuits in history. The irony, the more Trump fights to bury the Epstein story, the more it stays in the spotlight. Will this case actually win in court, or is it just political theater meant to rally his supporters? What do you think? Is Trump fighting for the truth or just fighting the press? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, share, subscribe and follow The Edge.